Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Dream, and you are here for the It's All Good show. I got to tell you, this is one of the absolute treats of my life is to host the It's All Good show, because I get to invite whoever I want, and pretty much you can guarantee that some of the finest people that I know and I've had contact with, I want to have on and to have conversations with. Today certainly fits the bill. My dear friend, Les Jensen, is my guest. He's an author, an inspirational speaker, podcast host, energy master, visionary, and he's committed to promoting personal empowerment and his life purpose of being of service to others. He's also on the top list of 5 people I'd love to just sit down and have a conversation with. In that vein, Les created New Human Living in 2009. He hosts the New Human Living Global Spiritual Podcast, sharing insightful conversations with guests who are shaping the future of human consciousness. I have been a guest on that show twice, so that's pretty cool. His latest book is called Forgiven Sinner, God's Last Savior. It was published in July 2018. His other books include Citizen King, The New Age of Power, and Personal Power Fundamentals. He's got newhumanliving.com and lesjensen.com. And now, off script for the rest of this broadcast, Les, welcome to the It's All Good show. I'm super excited to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited to be here. It's a delight.
Now, I will always go back to that 3-hour conversation we had in your house a year ago. Was it? I don't know when it was. Time is whatever the hell time is. But I love my conversations with you, and invariably I walk away or hang up or end the Zoom thinking that's one hell of a guy there. And sometimes, and I wouldn't admit this to a lot of people, but sometimes in our conversations, I'm like, oh, damn, this is way above my pay grade. So I have no idea where today's going to go. I know that you're all about high vibe and frequency and just all the goods. So where do you want to start? What do you got for us? What's itching to get out?
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. I did not see myself walking the path I've walked in this lifetime at all. I didn't see my life unfolding the way it has. I started off in television broadcasting, and there's a real curious aspect to working in television, and that was working with these really big-ass, high-power television transmitters. Would make 1 million watts of power 24/7. Our power bill was over $7,000 a month, and we did this by using 32,000 volt power supplies, really big power supplies.
Wow!
And they'll smoke your ass the nanosecond they can, and drop you like a rock. And I don't have any formal education past high school, and I'm standing in front of this beast, and I'm like, what's going on inside of this thing? How is it that whatever's happening in this appliance is delivering these pictures to everybody in our city of coverage? And that didn't it took me a year or two to wrap my noggin around what exactly is power, but I didn't understand it's a real component in my life until later on. As a, I was about 35 years old and I got cracked open. And what do I mean by that? I had I had been wrestling with reality, so to speak, and I had put myself on a shrink's couch. And this one particular episode, the psychiatrist is like, "Well, Les, come on, let's talk about anger." And I'm anger, Ma. I don't get angry. I don't have a problem with anger. I never show anger. This is pointless. He goes, "Come on, Les, come on, Les. I'm safe. You're safe. We're safe here. Now I want you to show me your anger." And he put out his hand. He said, "Push on my hand." And man, in that moment, some magical valve deep inside of me opened up, and this huge volume of energy is flowing out of my psyche like a volcano, just exactly like pushing the go button on a transmitter. Whoosh, and all this power is flowing out of the facility. And I remember thinking, what the hell? Wait, whoa. Who are you? I'm metaphorically talking to the anger. I'm like, what the hell? What are you all about? And the anger was like, I don't care. Well, I don't care. Think of me what you will. That anger had no skin in the game. And it really cleaned my clock as far as how has so much energy, raw energy, been in my life for decades, and I haven't been aware of it. How is it that anger, in hindsight, anger was a decisive, very powerful emotion in my life, and I was clueless. I was clueless that anger, I was anger's bitch. It was reaching over the steering wheel like and controlling. All my thoughts were based in the avoidance of anger, which made me a doormat. And I tell you, that episode right there, it changed my life like a flipping bug in the windshield.
Tell us what that shift. Did people around you notice that you had changed? Was it just you that noticed everything was different? How did it manifest?
Well, I saw reality different. Pardon my voice. The way I perceived the room I was in changed. In other words, the by dramatically shifting an immense amount of energy out of my psyche, how I experienced reality changed. How I viewed my world around me changed. And I didn't understand it for a long time. But it started a trajectory, a life path for me that I really didn't see it coming. Had you talked to me before that event, I would have been really locked down with my view of the world. I'm a TV engineer. I'm a father. I'm going to work in TV my whole life, and that's it. I can see. No, I can't. No, I I thought that I could see my life, but in reality, my life path, as my soul had perceived it, was much bigger than my ego had even thought of. I wouldn't have written books. I wouldn't have started a podcast And for hell's sake, I never saw myself as a spiritual persona, so to speak. I didn't see that in my DNA at all, but yet it turned out to be a big core of why I'm even here on this planet.
So I want to know, why are you here on this planet? We talked about it a little bit in the intro. I want to know why you're here, and I want to know what you've been doing, and yeah.
Well, I think a real big gift of mine was being the youngest of 7 kids. My parents were worn out by the time I came along, and they didn't. I remember my folks would say, "Does anybody see Les? Not what is he doing? Can you just see him?" And if any of my siblings said, "Oh, yeah, I see him," that's it. So I was a free range thinker. And this allowed me to really, for my entire life, come to my own conclusions completely and totally. And so when I got cracked open and I was shown that there's this subconscious element within our persona that can store energy, store a lot of energy, that got me thinking. And so after that first release of anger, I went back in. Metaphorically, I went in with my consciousness and said, is there any more of that in there? What else should I be looking for? And I learned that our karma, I'm going to start talking about karma now. That anger was inside my psyche for decades. My ego was scared to death of it. My ego wanted nothing to do with it. And yet I was accumulating more and more and more of it by avoiding or not giving myself permission or be brave enough to let myself feel it. And so the karma of that suppressed anger made me really a doormat. If we were to get into an argument, I'd just concede and give up, because if there was any choice that might stir up my anger, nope, the answer is no, 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 no matter what. And so in hindsight, when I look at anger, or to put it in a broader scope, to look at karma, what is our karma? Our karma is our own consciousness. Our karma, the energy behind our karma, is our own consciousness that we've suppressed in our psyche. So I developed some language behind this. The idea of a personal energy persona. We all have a personal energy persona. And what I mean by this is it's a collage of many different types of energy in our psyche. Most of it's etherical, just like that anger was in my psyche. I attracted to me an angry boss. Well, actually, it was 3 things. He was he was mean, malicious, but he was also my angel. I think he was one of the biggest soul contracts I had in this lifetime, because I'd go into work every day and he'd poke my buttons. My anger would get stirred up. And I'd go in the next day and my anger would get stirred up. I remember thinking, what were some of the signs that I could have noticed that I had this dichotomy operating in my psyche. And one of them was I'd come home from work and I just want to crash on the couch. I just want to crash on the couch and channel surf for an hour. So my energy would subside. So fast forward, it's been 30, 35 years since then. I call it scrubbing my psyche, scrubbing my personal energy persona. What I do is I take my mind, my consciousness, and I scan this realm of energy, physical and non-physical. And there's a texture or a density to your karma. And so when you're imagining scanning yourself, you'll come into density. And that density is raw karma in your personal energy persona. And so my soul showed me how to do this. It wasn't my conscious mind. And in the first decade, I found all kinds of crap in my psyche. And then I quit getting sick. I quit getting a cold or a flu. I didn't take any medication of any kind. And and I know I just spent 7 weeks in the hospital, and someone might say, well, 7 weeks in the hospital, that sounds like you're pretty sick. But that wasn't a virus or an illness. It was a mechanical blockage of my digestive tract. So the more I cleanse my energy within my persona, my core vibration went up and up and up. And then about 12 years ago, my soul metaphorically grabbed me by the back of the neck and took me up and up and up and up and up. And I rose in consciousness, and we went all the way into non-local source consciousness. This was a field of just pure light. I wasn't there. There was no thing there. There was no time. It was just pure consciousness. And so I'm in this realm of pure white light. And I don't know how much Earth time I was there. I eventually came back out of that and into my traditional consciousness. And I think my soul chose to do that for me, to show me the scale of human consciousness. When a soul is first born out of the metaphorical oven, if you haven't incarnated yet, you don't have any preference. You don't even know what ice cream or chocolate is. And you come down into physical form, and you bump up against reality, and then you start to posture. You start to posture with reality, and that posturing is what creates a standing wave inside of our psyche. Just like I postured with the feeling of anger, and I decided it was a very dangerous emotion in my family. It was a dangerous emotion in my family of origin because my dad was a World War II vet. And if anybody triggered his anger, the whole rodeo was in question. And so I learned at a very early age, if anybody sets off dad, I don't like the fear I see in my siblings and in my mother's face. So I installed subconsciously a mechanism to posture with the feeling of anger, and I started accumulating it. And over the decades, I got a substantial amount of anger in my psyche. This started showing up as I was getting ulcers. I started having digestive tract problems. And after that release in the psychiatrist's office, all those symptoms went away. So like I mentioned, after that episode, I created a daily practice. It's really all through the day kind of a practice where I go inside my psyche and I look for density of energy. And when I find that, I cleanse it and work it out and release it, if that makes sense.
How do you do that? I mean, so these are these dense pockets. What in practical terms for
What?
somebody listening to this, what how
Sure,
would you describe it?
sure. Um, well, what you can do is you can imagine. So if my body is where my karma is, if I go a little bit above my head and I create like a round sphere of white light with my imagination, just my imagination, and I bring it down through my psyche, I'll feel that like my shoulder has some density to it. So what do I do when I feel that density? I want to zero in on it with my consciousness. So I give it a texture. What does that feel like? Well, it feels like wet towels. Feels like there's wet towels laying on my arm. And so with my consciousness, I go into that wet towel and I give it all of my attention, and that softens it. You can imagine like caked mud on your arm, and that's your karma. And your mind is this water that softens it over time. Now, I would find like I had some stuff in my hips, and it took me. I'd come across it every day for years, and I couldn't wash it away. It was there for a very long time. It was there for years, but I that didn't stop me. When I would do this, I call it a conscious body scan or a conscious persona scan. And when I found a dense energy, and like I said, I had some in my hip that I'd see it every day, and I'm sitting there giving it my attention, trying to get it to loosen up and soften. And then eventually, over really years, it eventually went away. So if you think of when we posture, when we create karma, we're posturing and we're pushing down, we're rejecting an aspect of life. Well, the energy, the sensation of what that would feel like, in other words, all the times I would have got angry, I never felt the anger. I didn't feel the anger, but the anger was there. And so it's like your karma is you're saving the experiences you've avoided till later. So if I look at that anger in my consciousness, I could think of it as a fuel. It's a fuel of my consciousness from my past. And so when I go in and I do a conscious body scan, I'm taking my real time now consciousness and I'm looking to burn off the fuel of my past. And what is it? What's my karma? It's my consciousness from my past that I have not experienced. And so when I go in and I find it in my psyche and I loosen it up and it opens up and releases, it's revealing the feeling I would have had I not postured with it, if that makes sense.
Do you ever need to identify what that density is? Like, oh, that's the time that I was kind of a jerk to Sally Lou at the prom, or that, I mean, and then is it all this life? Is it some past life stuff?
It, it, it's both. It's this life and past life. And what'll happen is over time, it gets a density to it, and it's more of a sludge than it is. It might have several different emotions behind it, but um, I was thinking about this interview earlier today, and it's like I'm going to talk about I'm going into my psyche and I'm sorting the house and doing all this stuff. I'm not psychic in the sense that I can see things, but my psychic ability is in the feeling of it. But I don't really care as to the why. So I'll give you an example. So I'm 35 years past that getting cracked open on the shrink's couch. And I found it was like a small cantaloupe or a big grapefruit down in my belly. And this is etherically in my psyche. It's like a really hard ball. So when you come across this energy in your psyche, the harder it is, the more energy is behind it. So if it's like concrete or steel, that's pay dirt. That's the stuff that's really going to pay off. And so I worked on that ball for 4 months. For 4 months, I'm working on it and I'm working on it. It's showing me no sign of budging, but I don't care. And so it finally popped. And when it popped, all the energy inside of that came out. And I actually ended up vomiting several times from the release of that energy. So imagine it's 10 lives ago and the king wants to control the population and you stand up and tell everybody the king's full of crap. And the king wants to make an example of you and he throws you in the dungeon and locks you there and you're just gonna starve to death over months. And so the despair of that lifetime, you can feel really bloated, you can feel really numb. And if you don't process all of that and then you die, some of that is still in your psyche. And so what this process does is you're basically going through your Akashic records, which is your past. Your Akashic records are an energetic memory or recording of everything that you haven't processed. And so to take your real-time now consciousness and scrub your psyche over and over again, you're going to find these episodes from your past that left this dormant, heavy energy in your persona. And then you work on it and release it. And I tell you what, I feel so lucid and really wide open energetically. I think I don't think I've worked through 100% of my stuff, but I think I've cleaned out my psyche pretty well. And I think I'm bumping up against the collective subconscious within my own persona. And so I'm finding this energy doesn't really have the feeling of just me on it, but it's certainly dense and it's certainly perceivable by me. And so I've started to work on that. So as I can perceive it, I think I'm changing my relationship with the collective consciousness. And the feeling I get is I will be able to transcend a lot of collective agreements as far as reality and physics and how things are supposed to work. As I discharge and release that energy out of my psyche, my connection with the collective will soften, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But and just for clarity again, you're just working on these dense energies. You're really unaware of what they are.
Yeah, I really
of what
don't.
They're connected to.
I don't care what they are. I just know it's dense energy in my psyche, and when I first started, I felt like a 50-pound sack of cold potatoes. I couldn't sense anywhere in my psyche, and now decades later, I feel really clear and lucid through pretty much my whole persona. I realize that when I wake up in the middle of the night, it's 3 or 4 a.m. I'll just lay there and I'll just go looking. I'll just, I'm holding still. I'm not moving my hands or anything, but I'm just going, okay, let's go down by my hips. What does this feel like? I don't sense, wait, there's something over here. Let's go look at that. And so I come up across something, and like I said, I focus my attention on it, and my attention is like a fire, and it is the fuel. And with my consciousness, I infuse it with my awareness, and it softens and softens and then releases.
So, in practical terms, what do you notice then? Like you do 4 months and you finally clear that effing ball of energy out and
Yes,
everything. Then what do you
damn thing.
notice? What do you notice in your day to day reality? It's like, are your interactions different? Do you
Oh,
feel
sure.
different about stuff? What's the result that you're identifying? Obviously, you're not a 50-pound bag of potatoes. Was that an Idaho comment? All right, go ahead.
I used to haul sprinkler pipe and buck hay in Ashton, Idaho. I drove through Pocatello all the time.
So you know.
Um, well, how does it change? Before, when I'd get upset, I might be upset for hours or even days. Like coming home from work, I'd sit on the couch and it'd take me about an hour to get things to settle back down. All of that's gone. When I have an emotional event, I see it as a messenger. In when that anger was leaving my psyche, and I said, "Who the hell are you?" And the anger's like, "I don't care. I mean, your relationship with me is up to you." I realize that this is going to sound jacked up. All your emotional problems have nothing to do with your emotions. Your emotional problems, now check this, your emotions are as indifferent as an echo. Your emotions are as impersonal as an echo. All of our emotional psychosis is a product of our mind. And so here's how it works. We bump up against reality. We have our thoughts, our beliefs, our expectations, and we bump up against reality. And what comes back is the emotion. And it's a report card showing us how we see ourselves with reality. Now, as it's coming back here, it's coming back into my persona, and I'm gonna feel this emotional feeling. The feeling itself has no agenda, it has no motive, it has no curriculum. It's like a sound from a piano. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. And in that way, emotions don't have any skin in the game. But when the feeling comes in, then our mind gets triggered. Oh, it's that anger. And my mind has a memory, a history. And my mind turns into, oh my God, this feeling's here. We're all in danger. This is all mind. The feeling comes in, I feel it, and I feel, oh my gosh, we're all in danger. My mind story gets reactivated, and the feeling puts me in a mental reaction. The actual feeling itself doesn't have any skin in the game at all. Just like that anger leaving, it's like, I don't care. Oh, think of me what you will. So when the emotion comes, when an emotion lights up in us, all of our issues with our emotions is from our mind. And so that first time I allowed myself to feel anger, I didn't have any history with it. I didn't know what to do with it. and I never would have chosen to go feel that on my own. So if I'm not allowing myself to feel an emotion, how can I become intuitive about that emotion? And so by turning around and going back in and finding more anger, now I'm having an experience with it, and now I can become intuitive with it. That never could have happened if I had avoided it the whole time, like I had for decades previously in my life. And so, you know, anger Anger is really cool. Anger is the coolest damn emotion. The Zen Buddhist, you should never show anger. It's the rock that burns the person that holds it. Bullshit. I mean, when you feel anger, it's your messenger saying, hey, wait, time out. Time out. Something's amiss here. So your relationship with what's going on, you're not honoring yourself here in some way. So the anger is, first of all, raising the flag, going, reality check, reality check. And then when you see what's wrong, anger is this powerful, kick ass energy. Here's the problem, and here's the energy to take care of it. Anger is a very powerful mechanism. And it's every single one of our emotions are by divine design. There's none of them that should be avoided, if that makes sense.
So, Les, I have this secret magical power where I can just jump into your emotional body. What do I find?
It's vast and open and lucid. There's all of the cells in my body are not living in a restricted or condensed um, uh, density. I've released all that, and so my cells live in this lucid, vivid, lush, energetic persona, if you will. Um, I don't have emotional roller coasters anymore. When I feel an emotion coming in, I can process it within a minute or two. I mean, if somebody dies in my family or something, sure, that's something else. But the day in and day out emotions doesn't tip me off my balance. And so I can stay centered and focused. I can go into a bar and people are yelling and screaming with emotions. In the past, I would have turned tail and probably left because I didn't like what it was eliciting in me. But I could walk up and stand next to them and let them rant and rave, and I wouldn't flinch. And so I'm I've disconnected myself karmically from the emotional interactions of others. And so there's a real deep sense of freedom to that. And there's also a very deep sense of peace. There's this ocean of peace within us. I haven't talked about no thought meditation, but um, that I feel so peaceful in my psyche all the time.
Are you happy?
Oh my gosh. I'm especially after that flipping 7 weeks in the hospital. Hey, I'm stuck in traffic. Hooray, I'm
Right?
alive. And I can do um my life is my oyster. I can create whatever I want out of it. I am so excited for my life. So I'm 65 and I'm still getting these hits from my heart, my soul to take new tangents in my life. I think the old model of retiring and kind of toning it down, it does not serve consciousness. Consciousness like love always seeks new ways to express itself. And so I've got a big open heart. I've and I'm very excited about my life, and I want to show up for it all, and I intend to do that.
So, judgment. I mean, to be happy, to be in a good mood? Is it not judging the emotion, or is it allowing it, or is it, how does that work in your field?
Well, I think I've got out of my um I think our emotions can sit there and quantify the crap out of our lives. Am I doing well in my job? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? And I've kind of let go of that perspective. The perspective I have now is I look at my life path and I've had plenty of train wrecks and very painful experiences, but I can see that those have given me gifts. Those have given me gifts, and I can see the intention of my soul, the intention that my soul has for this life, and I can see the trajectory it intends for me. And when I show up for that, I let go of the what it looks like. I just show up for that. I'm I'm always uh, I have a deep sense of gratitude, a deep sense of satisfaction because I'm honoring the reason why I'm here. And I think that's kind of the core of my happiness. It's like I'm showing up for myself. I'm honoring myself, uh, and and that always has a deep feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment to it.
So you've stepped off the roller coaster that most people are on, where they're, oh, I'm in high spirits, everything's great. Oh shit, now and it used to be that there was a correlation between the highs that people experience to, like whatever high you experience, they used to say you're going to experience that much of a low. So you want to keep it at a plateau. Is that kind of what you've mastered, where you've kept it at this plateau of happiness and excitement and being of service?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I don't want to keep it at a plateau all the time. The reason I had accumulated those feelings is that I wouldn't allow myself to go into those feelings. Like anger was such a clear-cut one. If anger was coming up in my psyche before my mind was even aware of it, no, 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 and I pushed it down. So if I'm in this stasis, if I'm in this equilibrium and something comes up and I don't allow myself to go into it, then I'm starting to load myself up again. I have no problem going in and feeling pain. I mean, oh my God, the damn hospital stay showed me pain at a whole different level than I was aware of. But I don't avoid, I don't avoid my shadow. I don't avoid the dark side of my personality. In fact, if I avoid it, it'll then I'm back to posturing, and then I'm back to accumulating karma. And so, yes, day in and day out, I'm overall I have a real good equilibrium. But if um, well, I'll give you an example. Um, I bumped up against some pain in a family dynamic uh, like a couple of years ago, and it was pretty painful. And this was emotional pain, not physical pain. And I asked myself, I said, is all of this pain I'm feeling about this issue right now in front of me? And I got no. Most of the pain I'm feeling right now is from the past. It's just that this recent pain stirred up the, all the pain I had been avoiding. Now, I don't recommend this to the lighthearted or the weak-hearted, but I said, well, if that's from my past, I want to burn it off. And so I turned and faced the pain, and I walked into the pain, and I let it have its way with me. And oh my God, it felt like I was chained to the ground.
How long did it last?
Um, the actual pain, going through the pain was probably a couple of hours, but it took me a week to come to a place, what should I say, come back towards a sense of normal. And it took me weeks after that. But it was like I was chained to the ground and this hot molten lava slowly engulfed my body. And so I'm feeling this immense amount of pain in my psyche and it's burning out of me. Remember, I'm taking my consciousness and I'm burning it out. And and then a while later, another event came and I had a bunch of pain. And I said, is this related to the local event or is this from the past? And again, I turned and I went through the pain. And then, Mark, in the hospital, holy shit, between the first and the second surgery, I felt like I was in an ocean of pain, extreme pain. And
Emotional,
no,
physical.
that was physical.
Okay.
And when you have extreme pain, you can't hide from it. It burns through your psyche like a wildfire, and it doesn't ask your permission. I mean, and and it was very tough to get through that. But my relationship, as a consequence from this, my relationship to pain has changed considerably. I think. And I can totally understand it. When you have a little kid and they fall and they scrape their knee and they're bawling their heads off, you want to swoop down and make it better. Let's get the pain out of your life. But but if you're avoiding pain over a very long period of time, which I think is the vast majority of humanity, I promise you, you're accumulating pain in your psyche and your painful events are much more pronounced than they would typically be had you processed pain as it came along and didn't accumulate as you proceeded through your life, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. 7 weeks in the hospital this year. It was more than challenging for you. Did you get out of it unscathed?
Um, it was a Phoenix experience. It reset me to zero. I remember when I came home, I thought, I'm a shell. I'm empty of who I was. And I thought, well, I need to reconstitute myself. And my higher self is like, no, 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 no. Time out. Stop, stop. You have reached zero. Stay in zero. I'm like, what? And it's like, look, stay in the emptiness. Just stay in the emptiness and learn to live there. And I got out in April, and here we are in October, and I've been really looking very carefully about how I um, carry myself, conduct myself. I don't want a bunch of background narratives. I don't want life in the fast brain. There's this really still. That's where I live. That's where I live now.
So, what's it been like being in that zero place or 0 point? You're back at
Sure,
work, you're back
sure.
with family relationships, you're back with life happening all around you.
Yeah.
What's it like?
When I need like an ego to change the tire or interact, it flares up and it gets as big as it needs to be, and I go through the event, and then it collapses back down. It's not that I've discarded my ego. It can come and it can go, but if I'm not engaged in a project, I don't have to have um, constant ongoing thought just for the sake of thinking. And that in that piece, I know all the cells in my body love it. And my body as a whole loves that sense of peace. And certainly for the collective consciousness, everybody's going through the karmic tsunami. I can be a node, an anchor point of peace through a human persona here on planet Earth. And I think I'm getting a clear yes, that's part of why I've been through these experiences, so I can kind of be an anchor of peace for humanity in the hologram of the big I am, if that makes sense.
So your outreach, which is based in your purpose and your mission, how has that shifted, or has it shifted?
Um, well, that's a good question. I follow my impulse, so I've had the podcast now for, I think we're coming on 16 years. I'm writing a book about the hospital experience, but I'm getting continually, would I say, upgraded or new inspirations. For example, water. My soul told me to look into water, and so I've created this water system, reverse osmosis, and revitalization of water. And I'm thinking about designing a 3D printed like a vortex to revitalize water within like a garden hose or within. I mean, you could install it in the system, and it would revitalize the water. And so um, it's not like I've stopped my journey. It's that I don't need to see 5, 10, 15 years down the road. I just need to see where do I need to be today, and where do I put my attention today. And so this is fascinating because as I say this, I'm sitting here in emptiness going, yes, I've got all this stuff going on, but I'm like, I don't see it anywhere.
So the book, 7 weeks in the hospital. How's the writing going? Are you hitting blocks of aspects of the experience that have not been that you've not been able to bring clarity to, or is it just flowing and going, and we'll all be seeing this book soon?
Well, it's not like any other book I've written because I'm talking about my experience. I'd much rather talk about, spiritual philosophy. I'm a free range philosopher, and now I have to talk about, not so flattering aspects of being in a hospital. The book's been really tough to write. I've started it over probably 5 times, and I think I've finally got it settled down. But to research I went through the online medical records and to figure out when I had like 5 operations, and um, um, it took me a while to piece it all together, and because I'd talk to people and they'd say, "Did you ever think about suicide, or did you ever think about?" I'm like, "No," but there was a point um, after the first surgery. All these About an hour or two later, I don't. Time is a weird thing to remember in a hospital, but all these people come in and they're working on me like a crash cart, where you see in the movies they roll up a body and they're just working on them, and I'm watching my body flopping around, and I'm like, is this the last moments I have with my life? Is this game over? And I've kind of looked at the history of my life, and like the anger of my father taught me resiliency and tenacity and determination. And those certainly were key aspects that helped me get through my stay in the hospital. And so I'm appreciating my life up to this moment, it's showing me how I prepared myself to go through, and I went through that. I didn't see it coming. I went through cold turkey, 7 weeks in the hospital, and after 5 weeks, you're effing bad shit crazy. I mean, no, I mean climbing the walls crazy.
Yeah.
But week 6 and 7, it's like an abandonment of hope. It's a whole different kind of um, you just I gave up. I gave up ever knowing when I was going to go home because some of the medical staff had come in and go, "You're looking pretty good. You're going to go home." And I talked to the doctor like, "Oh no, we got crap going on." And after weeks and weeks and weeks of no definitive answer, you just have to say, I give up. I give up any hope of knowing when I'm going to go home. And that was really tough.
So you have spoken about your relationship with reality changing. What about your personal relationships, people that you work with, family members, other? How did those shift?
Um, from the hospital,
Yeah.
I saw how much support I had. Um, um, because when you're laying in the bed, nothing happens unless somebody else decides it. It's not like I sat there and called people. People came. My family came. My brother drove like 1,400 miles because to come and see me in the hospital, and um, it I just have a real appreciation. I mean, it was demonstrated to me that um, when I could do nothing for these people did everything for me by showing up. And I really, I came to value that at a deeper level. I don't think I was conscious of it until it was displayed to me through that ordeal, if that makes sense.
Sure, it does. So today, Les Jensen, 65 years old, survived 7 weeks in the hospital, in addition to the bigger picture of surviving 65 years, of this planet and this reality. What's your updated message for humanity? What's that nugget that you have for all of us that you're going to share right now that's just going to change everything for anyone that hears it? No pressure.
You decide when you stop growing yourself. You decide when you stop growing yourself. Now, now, when you're in a hospital bed for 7 weeks, 100% of your muscles lose all their strength. 100% of your muscles lose all your strength. So they let me out of the hospital, and I get home, and there's a flight of stairs. And oh my God, I felt like I was dragging bags of concrete to go up the stairs. It was extremely difficult. It was very hard. So I was pretty much on my own for physical therapy, and I started going on hikes. There's a story to this. And I walked a very thin line, but I walked a very thin line. So I realized my recovery will be wherever I settle. So maybe I was at this level of strength or whatever, and I got crashed to zero. I can stop short of that. I can go back to that, but I can go past it. So I decide when my growth stops, right? Where I settle for myself. Now in physical strength, working on those farms in Ashton, I was a strong guy, and all that got erased. The strength of myself, that history got erased to zero. So uh, uh, every weekend I went hiking here in Colorado, And Mark, I tell you what, I don't know who the F came up with this idea. I think it was my soul. Um, it said, it said, hike a 14er, a 14,000 foot mountain.
Right, right.
And, uh, and I'd been hiking like 300 vertical feet, which is like nothing in mountains around here. And I hadn't hiked anything more than 300 vertical feet. So I found Mount Bierstadt, which is about an hour out of Denver. The trailhead starts at 11,000 feet and you go up 2,800 feet to 14,000 feet. Well, I left early in the morning. I get to the trailhead.
Did you go alone?
I went alone, and I get the car says it's 34 degrees outside. And I'm dressed just like I'm dressed now, jeans, socks, hiking boots. I had a pullover and I brought a windbreaker. And that 34 degrees was the warmest that day was going to get for me. And
Whoa.
I go start hiking up this mountain. So I've got 2,800 vertical feet to cover in 3.5 miles. And I ran out of gas right off the top. Holy shit. Oh my God, I ran out of gas. I was so wiped out, and I'd barely scratched the hike. And I thought, and leading up to the hike, a few days before the hike, I saw on the news somebody had to be airlifted off that's the very same mountain from altitude sickness. From altitude sickness. And so um, I'm really fascinated that my resiliency, my tenacity, and my determination were not affected by the hospital stay. I was the slowest person on that trail. Everyone, little kids, little dogs, everyone passed me. I passed nobody. I was extremely slow, but I kept walking. I think the moon passed me like a sonic boom. And I go, and so I decide I want to hike this mountain, and I hike and I hike, and I'd run out of energy, and I'd stop and rest. The higher up I got, the more into the wind I got. So there's this freezing cold wind blowing, very cold. The rocks had frost building up on them at the top. And if I stopped too long to rest, my feet were literally feeling painful because I didn't wear thermals. I didn't wear multiple socks. I didn't prepare for it at all. And so the hospital made me aware of my blood oxygen level. And I realized that if I crashed too hard, I could get altitude sickness. So I would walk 20 yards and stop. And I'd walk, 15, and I'd walk 25. And I just up at the top, it was blowing so hard. It was so cold. It was so cold. I'd stop to get my energy, and my legs felt like they were starting to get frostbite. So I had to just keep moving. And I made it all the way up. I made it to the 14,000 foot summit,
Wow.
and turned around and came back. And I kind of wanted it to be a milestone. I think my soul told me to go do that because my ego wouldn't have chosen it on my own. But I wanted it to be a milestone, kind of showing that I got back to whatever normal is. But when everybody and their dog, literally everyone and their dog, everyone passes you and turns into smaller and smaller specks ahead of you on the trail, I hadn't recovered at all. I mean, sure, I recovered from day one, but again, the message I want to leave is we settle. We've found some kind of a equilibrium in our life, and we've settled for that. But that is by no means a fixed barrier of any kind. You can decide for yourself today to elevate yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, any way you want, and your soul, your psyche will show up in kind and let that happen. I think we kind of fall into a norm, an equilibrium of sorts of comfort, and we don't ever question our lives again. And I'm just saying, you can look at your life and make new decisions at any time during your life to elevate your status, your stature with yourself, not for anyone else, just for you, if that makes sense.
It does absolutely make sense. Les, you are an inspiration. Another wonderful conversation with you that gives me deep insights to process and apply to my own life and existence. I am forever in gratitude for our friendship and really appreciate your soul, the tenacity of your being, whatever it is that kept you here, because you're a valuable person for humanity, and it's a treat to have you on the It's All Good show. I want to thank you.
Well, I don't want to call you I don't want to call you Dr. Dream. I want to call you Dr. Love, because you are a vessel of the divine. I have witnessed you embodying love. I don't know how many people on the planet I can say that to, but for you, I'd just say it without hesitation. I have observed you over the many years we've known each other, and you're not afraid of love. You show up for love. You become a vessel, a conduit for love, and you do that with such grace and sincerity that I already know you've touched hundreds and hundreds of people. So you, Dr. Love, I'm so glad you're walking around on the planet. And I celebrate you, and I'm excited to see where we both go really in these coming decades of our lives, because I think we're both been kind of awakened to this much bigger idea of who each of us is, and we're willing to honor that and show up for that. And that's always a powerful dynamic. So thank you.
Thank you, Les. I don't look for validation, but to be seen by you means the world to me. Again, thank you so much for being my guest,
Yeah.
and looking forward to more time with you.
Yes. Amen. Likewise. Thank you so much.